you have left is but a few seconds to exit the building before the bomb goes off. You don't even know why they needed this building blown up in the first place. Still, an order's an order. Having covered only a dozen or so meters, the structure blows up behind you as you run. The shockwave from the blast hurls you forward in the middle of a nearby river. Well, almost made it. Already exhausted, you swim to the other shore and escape the pillars of fire and smoke. Now on dry land again, you're overcome with a sensation, a need. The need to just find some place to sit for a minute. Almost immediately after this thought enters your head, you feel something behind you. You quickly turn around, pointing your submachine gun at the object, which is just materialized behind you. But what you see is nothing save the most ordinary-looking chair. While, yes, ordinary armchairs don't exactly just appear out of nowhere, the chair's design cannot be written off entirely. It was crafted in the shape of a woman, relaxed and lying down. Due to the fatigue in your legs, the typical alertness and suspicion are momentarily ignored. You plop yourself down into a chair and instantly realize that you've never before in your life ever sat in anything so comfortable. You feel drawn to shut your eyes for a bit and doze off. But your sleep is interrupted by the sound of your partner making his way through the dense thickets nearby. He tells you that he feels tired and would literally sell his soul if he could just sit down for a while. Right at that moment, the chair vanishes and reappears directly behind your partner. You yourself fall backwards onto the thorny bushes. Your colleague then sits down calmly onto the teleported chair, as if nothing out of the ordinary had just happened. But here's the thing. He already knew about the chair's existence, and the goal of your mission was to find it. The primary task of the current ongoing operation has been to destroy this peculiar piece of furniture. You're not necessarily fond of this idea, but one does not negotiate orders in the Global Occult Coalition. Just a few hours later, you and your partner find yourselves near a garden shredder, which will be used to chop up the paranormal chair, leaving just small wood chips. You try to keep your distance from the chair, letting your partner do the honors. Without any hesitation, he throws a piece of furniture into the wood chipper. The chair crashes into the machine with a crackling sound, only there's no sawdust coming out the other side. You're not really paying any attention to this, however, because at the same time you hear the gut-wrenching screams of agony coming from your partner. He rips off the Global Occult Coalition uniform jacket, and you see the skin of your colleague's chest torn open. Moreover, there's something black inside. This substance snaps his ribs and breaks free. Your comrade falls to the ground, now dead, and a black female head is protruding from his chest. This same head had adorned the back of a chair only moments ago. Whatever sympathy you had for the furniture is replaced by a mix of fear, anger, and a burning desire to avenge your deceased comrade. You then realize that some of the debris still remains inside your partner, so you toss him into the chipper to do away with the chair once and for all. Only the body of your dead friend is shredded up, however, and the pieces of wood are nowhere to be seen. But this is no longer of any concern to you, for suddenly you feel your breath become labored and difficult. Your vision begins to darken, and the ground below shifts right out from under your feet. You reach up towards your chest and hit your finger on a nail protruding out of your fifth right rib. This could easily be your story, or something like it, if you happen to be one of the Global Occult Coalition agents involved in the operation to eliminate SCP-1609. This object cannot be completely destroyed, however, only contained under specific guidance, something the SCP Foundation is currently doing. Before it was struck by the wood chipper, the object had been a large, comfortable chair made of lacquered oak and covered with bleached leather. The wood part of the structure was the body of the reclining woman pose, while the leather was her dress. Back then, the anomaly was actually 100% safe and even useful. Whenever a person felt the desire to sit down, the chair would immediately appear closer to this person. Granted, the object had to be within a certain radius from this person. Due to the object's loss of integrity, it's now virtually impossible to establish this distance. The chair tends to remain next to the person who initially wanted it, at least until someone else nearby decides they want to sit. The entity that lives inside of the chair was actually rather gullible up until the point when the Global Occult Coalition captured it. Allegedly, that's why it even allowed itself to literally be shoved into a wood chipper. All subsequent attempts to eliminate the object were fruitless. Whenever the anomaly senses a threat, it teleports. Its individual pieces materialize inside the lungs of those who threaten it in the vicinity. This causes lacerations inside the lung tissue, along with a blockage of the airways. People tend to die almost immediately in these cases. So far, at least 3 employees of the GOC are known to have died in such a way, although the actual number of victims is most likely much higher than that. Upon realizing that being surrounded by the people of the Coalition was unsafe, the anomaly teleported of its own volition to the Foundation. Now it's contained in Storage Site 8, and rarely ever leaves this spot. If it does, then the object always reappears not long after. SCP-1609 is apparently conscious and had somehow found out about the Foundation on its own. This appears to be one of those rare cases when an anomaly cannot be contained by force due to its ability to teleport. Yet the object itself nonetheless prefers to be in the caring hands of the Foundation staff. Since SCP-1609's entity wishes to be of use, but can no longer be a chair, Foundation personnel have thought up other uses. Its wooden shards, leather scraps, and steel nails are now used as mulch for the garden bed. SCP-1609 retains moisture in the flower bed perfectly and prevents weeds from sprouting. Just so that the material does not rot, assuming it's capable of decomposition, it's regularly removed and treated with antiseptics. Given the anomaly's sad past life experience, though, all procedures are to be done as carefully as possible. First and foremost, this is necessary to preserve the lives of the employees themselves, so that abnormal mulch does not materialize inside their lungs. In order to avoid any type of association with the Global Occult Coalition, all workers are to move about in civilian clothes and constantly comment on and praise the quality of the mulch. Before beginning any procedures, employees are required to voice their intentions. SCP-1609 is assumed to have an excellent handle on English and any other language. Considering that the anomaly used to teleport itself in the past, based only off a person's desire to sit, the object is most likely also capable of reading minds. Employees associated with the Global Occult Coalition are also recognized by the anomaly and have received aggressive reactions to their presence, even when they're in plain clothes. The phrase threat entity is one often used among Coalition personnel. This phrase can also provoke the object's fragments to teleport into the lungs of the offender, and therefore it's forbidden to use this phrase. Additionally, the sound of engines running is the most reminiscent of SCP-1609's past traumatic experience. As a result, no such machinery is allowed to be within 200 meters of SCP-1609. Since all these rules have been followed well and consistently, the object has only ever displayed aggression on a few occasions. According to Dr. Sievert, the situation with SCP-1609 represents the perfect example of the Global Occult Coalition's flawed policy. Prior to falling into the hands of these defenders of peace and tranquility, the object had been a completely harmless and useful creature. But in trying to destroy this so-called threat, the Coalition only aggravated the situation. To be more accurate, they actually created a dangerous situation out of the blue. The consequences of these actions have already needed to be addressed by the Foundation, the employees of which are constantly alert now. On the other hand, however, this case seems to indicate that there's actually no such thing as safe anomalies at all. Should SCP-1609 have ended up on Foundation premises as one piece, it would have been classified as safe, not Euclid. Thus, no one would have had any idea that the chair was actually capable of killing, should it choose to do so. As it turns out, if someone offends even the safest objects badly enough, it might change its anomalous properties. For example, if someone were to commit acts of violence against the iPods or SCP-131, then the creatures would most likely assume the form of some kind of aggressive and destructive monsters. This could happen with almost any safe anomaly. But here's a question I need answers to. I think that SCP-1609 had no idea the Foundation existed. Otherwise, it would not have resorted to the unusual and less effective escape attempts which had been seen in the beginning. Personally, I believe that the Global Occult Coalition itself actually planted the chair's remains at the Foundation. After it became clear that this would not be sufficient enough to destroy the object, the Coalition opted to take advantage of the object's aggression in order to further their cause. After all, it's not exactly a secret that the SCP Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition are at odds with each other. The GOC agents surreptitiously planted the armchair's pieces at Warehouse Site 8. They figured that a lot of lives would be lost as the Foundation employees interacted with the anomaly. But as it turned out, not nearly as many were as injured as the Coalition would have wanted. SCP-1609 became quickly accustomed to the good conditions. This plan may seem very stupid or even far-fetched at first. But let's not forget that the Foundation and the Coalition tend to avoid direct confrontations. While they are enemies, they cannot exactly afford direct attacks, and so they go with sabotage instead. The reality is, though, is that things can be much less poetic than that. The Coalition employees, realizing the error they had made, pushed the remains onto the Foundation, leaving them to ultimately deal with the consequences. Although I'm honestly surprised that the Foundation didn't try to remodel the chair in any way, most likely this was due to the fact that jobs like that require motorized tools and equipment, which would trigger the object. Even everyday tools like a hammer can provoke aggression from the object's remains. So, I guess the chair as a whole isn't so safe after all. What if the Foundation actually prevents the pieces from reuniting on purpose? Since this might prove to be both serious and devastating. Although I have no wish to needlessly arouse suspicion of a useful and harmless object, the anomalous world is just that, an anomalous world. What's your take on everything?